All right, hopefully we are back. A little reboot, I think, helped. We're just a few moments behind live court, so let's just get right to it.
Judge Patrick III, Judge of the Circuit Court of Raleigh County, is now sitting. You may be seated.
Good morning. We continue in the trial of State of West Virginia versus Natalie Cochran. This is case number 23-343-K. All right. Do we have anything to take up at this time out of the presence of the jury? Mr. Truman.
Your Honor, the only issue that we have is a technical one, and when we try to full-size the screen, the picture just kind of falls apart. So we were going to try and substitute a cable to see if that was a problem, but at the moment that's the only problem. So
okay. So we're dealing with a picture that's that small.
Yeah, I'm afraid that we could blow it up, but if I can figure this out. And it will be on that screen, which is bigger, but unfortunately that's not real convenient.
Jurors won't be able to see that screen, however.
How do you make this bigger, Ashley?
I don't know if you can make that one bigger
until we're admitted. Okay. And once it comes up, we can try again. And if worst case scenario, we'll test the jury's vision.
Okay. Their eyesight.
Yes.
All right. Well, we can just do the best we can.
That's all we can do.
And then do we have your expert witness squared away, Mr. Selden?
Honestly, Your Honor, I'm not sure. When I talked to your secretary, I was under the impression that my witness would be called on the telephone so she could monitor the expert testimony. Your secretary said, for whatever reasons, that wasn't possible. There were other people on the line, whatever. She said that she would send a Teams link by email to Dr. Banerjee, and she would be admitted that way so she could monitor expert testimony. I don't know if that has been accomplished yet or not.
All right. Have you been in touch with Dr. Banerjee?
I informed her of what the process would be. She is standing by on her computer waiting for the email Teams link.
Okay, well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hopefully we can accomplish all of these things. Doubtful, but we can hope.
Wildly optimistic, it's all going to go perfectly.
That's right. Anything further from the defense before we get started?
No, Your Honor.
Bring out the jury, please, bailiff.
Your Honor, very quickly before the jury arrives. Do you want me to call Dr. Banerjee and see if she has access?
Yes, once we get started, and we'll go slowly so that we can figure things out.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I'm glad to see smiling faces instead of scowling faces. You guys are the greatest. Thank you so much for coming in on this rather terrible weather day. It was 3 degrees at my house this morning, and it felt like 1. So thank you for coming in, being prompt, and doing your civic duty. I hope you had a good long weekend and rested well, and you are ready to continue with the trial. We have some what we call Teams links. We have video presentations this morning of expert witnesses. We've had already a few technological difficulties. So I just ask for your patience, and hopefully you'll be able to bear with us. All right, we are still on the state's case in chief, of course, and Mr. Truman, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Dr. Diane Krieger. There she is.
Is that you, Dr. Krieger?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Uh-oh.
Now, Mr. Selden, would you call your witness to make sure that she can hear?
Do you wish me to step out?
Either way.
Might be better. I will
Okay.
return in a moment.
It is.
If you'll bear with us for a minute, Dr. Krieger.
Certainly.
No,
Members of the jury, we have had some difficulty blowing up the video screen. It's kind of small, but I think you can still see the witness, and we may just have to go along with what we have.
Speaker, mic.
She was unable to contact the link.
Your Honor, she did hook up with Teams initially. She had audio, and then it disappeared. So she can see what's going on, but she can't hear, which is the most important thing.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Krieger.
I can unmute myself. I muted myself, that section of the attorneys. If you prefer me to stay unmuted, that's fine, and I can hang up from the telephone, whatever you prefer.
I think we need the telephone because we have problems with the audio.
She's calling now, Your Honor.
Okay, so, yeah.
She had, our expert can hear, she can hear when she is unmuted.
Okay. So if you'll stay unmuted, Dr. Krieger, we'll be good as gold.
Maybe.
Fine. Is this working for you?
It's working great.
Great.
All right, if you'd please stand, Dr. Krieger, and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. All right, Mr. Truman.
Thank you, Honor. Would you state and spell your name, please?
Diane Krieger, Diane-Krieger.
Thank you. Doctor, are you currently employed?
I am.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a physician and endocrinologist with Endocrinology Associates in Miami, Florida, and I am an associate professor of medicine and head of endocrinology at the Florida International University College of Medicine.
Your Honor, I hate to interrupt, but our expert cannot hear her at all now. I don't know what's going on.
All right.
Okay. Let me do something.
Stand by.
Can you hear me through the telephone?
Can you hear the telephone?
Can you hear me through the telephone?
We're checking.
Can you hear her now?
Okay. Because I originally was muted, then I unmuted to see if that would help you. And now I need to figure out how to mute again.
Okay, try.
Okay. Now our expert can hear her now.
Okay. We should be good now. But we can't hear Dr. Krieger.
Aren't we all glad we live in this modern era?
We can't hear you at all, Dr. Krieger.
Judge, the way we did it last week was we muted the team's microphones and broadcast through the telephone.
Yes, that's what we're trying to do now. Dr. Krieger is on her phone.
I think we're going to have to call her in.
She's making hand signals. Can you hear me, Dr. Krieger? Okay. That's a start.
I agree.
Dr. Krieger, you can answer that. It is us calling you back.
Your call has been forwarded. 3059030.
One more time.
Okay. And she should answer.
Yes.
Answer that if you can. I'll just send us a note. What does that say, Mr.
Trying to
Truman?
reconnect.
She's trying to reconnect with the number that called her.
We'll call her.
Okay. We're calling you, Dr. Krieger.
Hello?
Ah, that's promising.
Yes, sorry about that.
No problem. Not your fault. Now, Mr. Selden, can you check to see if your
Yes, Your Honor.
expert can hear?
I can hear.
Okay.
Now my call is being forwarded to voicemail.
Okay. Well, why don't we start, and hopefully your expert will let us know. She'll call if she can't hear.
Let me send her a text message real quick.
All right.
I can hear.
Oh, okay, we have another expert on the line. That's what's causing us our problems, Dr. Krieger. The defense expert wants to be able to hear your testimony.
She just called me. She can't hear.
Why don't we just connect? That phone is a conference call phone. Just call the defense expert on that and add her to that call.
Okay. If someone knows how to do that, we can
Well,
do it.
maybe. Don't put me under that kind of pressure.
They're going to try another mode.
There's an ad.
Why don't you just stay on the phone for a moment? Your Honor, I'm having her just stand by on my phone till we
Okay.
figure it out.
Stanley, come up with your number, please. Hold on. 252. 1319. And Dr. Page, I'm going to get off the phone. They're trying to call you, so I'll get it.
Hello, Dr. Banerjee. Hello, it's Dr. Banerjee.
Dr. Banerjee, just mute your phone, and we should be going forward now. You can hear okay?
Thank you.
Correct?
Yes, I can. I'm muting.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Krieger, are you still with us?
I am.
Outstanding. How many lawyers does it take to get a phone call?
I can tell you I've been doing telehealth for 5 years, and this happens in my life every day.
Well, doctors, through our Supreme Court, we have 1995 technology, so welcome to West Virginia. Doctor, before you stopped, you were mentioning endocrinology. Could you explain to us what that is, please?
Yes, endocrinology is a subspecialty of internal medicine that deals with the function of all the glands in the body, such as the pancreas, which makes insulin, and the thyroid, which makes thyroid hormone, the pituitary, that makes a lot of hormones that direct the other hormones, the ovaries and the testes. So we specialize in problems that happen in glands.
Now, Doctor, to get to this point, what kind of training did you have, please?
I have an undergraduate degree from Cornell University. From there, I went to the University of California, San Francisco, where I received a medical degree. From there, I crossed the country to Boston, where I went to the Beth Israel Hospital, a major teaching institution of Harvard Medical School. I did my internal medicine residency there, and then stayed on on for a fellowship.
Doctor, could you tell us in summary fashion your work experience, please?
Yes. My first job was at the University of Miami Diabetes Research Institute, where I was an assistant clinical professor of medicine, taking care of patients, teaching medical students, and doing research. In 1991, I opened a private practice in Miami and have since then been practicing endocrinology in what started as a group with just me and now has 5 endocrinologists. And I then joined the faculty at a new medical school about 12 years ago, the Florida International University College of Medicine, where I am now head of endocrinology and associate professor of medicine. I teach second-year medical students the pathophysiology of endocrinology, and I teach the clinical studies of third-year medical school students and first-year residents.
Now, Doctor, have you published any peer-reviewed articles?
Yes. During the time of my private practice, I was also involved in a lot of clinical research and have published a number of articles about those topics, a variety of topics. I did research in diabetes, in natural products and their safety and effectiveness, and later in my career, I did a lot of vaccine research and had a number of publications having to do with that.
Have you been a presenter for any national or international conferences?
Yes, in 2021, I came to Morgantown, West Virginia, where I presented at a symposium. I was the endocrine expert for the Clarksburg Johnson VA insulin murder cases, and the prosecutors and I and several of the other physicians created a symposium jointly with the medical school and the law school about the cases.
Doctor, the term board certified comes up when experts are involved. What does that mean?
That means that you have the physician has achieved a certain level of training and then has demonstrated competency by taking examinations. So I am board certified in internal medicine and in endocrinology, diabetes, and metabolism.
You are licensed to practice medicine, I take it, in various jurisdictions?
Yes, I'm licensed to practice medicine in the state of Florida and in the state of Utah.
You alluded to it earlier, but what high-profile cases have you been involved in?
Yes, I've been involved in 2 serial murder cases involving insulin. The first was at the Johnson VA in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and the second was in Butler, Pennsylvania, where I was an expert for the Office of the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Your Honor, under Rule 702, subject to inquiry by the defense, the state would move this witness be treated as an expert.
All right, Mr. Selden, do you wish to engage in voir dire of the proposed expert witness?
No, Your Honor, we accept her as an expert.
Very well. Dr. Krieger will be accepted by the court as an expert in her field.
Doctor, at the state's request, you reviewed some medical records and you drafted a report of your opinions and findings. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You wrote one report dated April 13th, 2023, and it's 7 pages long. Is that right?
That is correct.
Since drafting that report, have you had anything brought to your attention that would cause you to make changes or amendments to your report?
No.
Your Honor, at this time, state moves State 18 into evidence.
All right. Have you seen that, Mr. Selden?
I have, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
State's number 18 will be admitted into evidence.
Doctor, in preparation for your report, what records did you review?
I have a list of those records. Would you like me to read them?
I think that might be helpful, please.
I have records from the Charleston Area Medical Center, from Orthopedic and Spine Surgery Associates, the records of Dr. R. Patel, the records of the Raleigh General Hospital, West Virginia Controlled Substance Drug Log, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, Lieutenant T.C. Bledsoe, interview of Stephanie Hamilton, STD tool-mark worksheet, and an autopsy report.
And that the autopsy report was from the State Medical Examiner's Office in West Virginia, is that correct?
That is correct.
Doctor, what's the cause of death of Michael Cochran, according to your review of the records?
Well, I'm not a cause of death expert since I'm an endocrinologist. My expertise is in hypoglycemia. But it appears that his death was related to hypoglycemia, which then produced cerebral edema.
And that's what I'd ask you, if you feel competent to do so. Can you explain what cerebral edema is?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't hear you well.
Sure. Can you explain to us what cerebral edema is?
Certainly. Cerebral edema is swelling of the brain cells, and that is usually caused by either not enough blood sugar going to the brain cells or not enough oxygen going to the brain cells.
In your report, you indicate a number of, for lack of a better word, pieces of information or tests that could have been performed at one point or another that would have helped you be more definitive in your assessment of the case. Could you explain to me what you meant by that?
Yes. When a person presents with a very low blood sugar, which we call hypoglycemia, there are very specific tests that should be done prior to the treatment of the low blood sugar. There are a list of tests. I can tell you each one specifically if you'd like.
Please.
But you would like me to? Okay. We do an insulin level, a C-peptide level, a pro-insulin level, a beta-hydroxybutyrate, a glycinide sulfonylurea screen. And those tests help us determine whether the low blood sugar was related to insulin or not, and where the insulin could have come from. The test needs to be done prior to the treatment of the low blood sugar.
In this case,
unfortunately, in this case, the tests were not performed. I can tell you that I've reviewed many cases, as I told you, of my prior experience, and it is close to zero in any of those cases that the tests were performed. And it's unfortunate because it really helps make a determination about the cause of the low blood sugar.
Okay, so there was a limit, as the state understands your testimony, doctor, there was a limited time during which those tests that you mentioned could have been performed that would have helped definitively determine the insulin issue.
That's right. The test should have been performed on arrival at the emergency room when the other blood tests were performed, or as soon as it became evident that the blood sugar was extremely low.
And what's the impact of treatment? Had the treatment taken place and then those tests performed, what would have been the relationship between those two factors?
What happens is the treatment of low blood sugar is glucose or sugar. And when sugar is administered, it changes the results of some of the blood tests that we draw and makes them unhelpful.
Okay, so those tests were not performed. So what alternative means is there to determine the outcome or the impact of insulin or lack thereof?
In my prior experience with the other cases, and again in this case, the only thing left to do is to go through all the possible causes of low blood sugar and determine if they are credible or possible in this case.
And how many of them would there be?
There are many. I listed, I believe, 13. I left some possible causes out because they don't apply in adults, or because it was very clear from the history of this particular person that the causes would not apply, and I listed 13 causes.
Let's talk about those 13 causes, Doctor. Let's go through them, please, and your process of discussing them and ruling them in or out as a potential cause.
Of course. Okay. So the first one I listed, and it's in no particular order, but I'll just go through the way I listed them 2 years ago. That many patients who have diabetes are treated with medications that cause low blood sugar, and that's what we see most often. But the person we're talking about now did not have diabetes and was not taking any of those meds. End-stage liver failure, we call it hepatic failure, can cause low blood sugar because the liver is a good source of sugar for the body when someone isn't eating. And our patient here did not have any liver problems that would be considered end-stage liver problems. He had a minor abnormality of a couple of tests over many years that were not affecting him. End-stage kidney failure can cause a low blood sugar because the kidney makes blood sugar, oddly enough, and helps control blood sugar when people need it. And his kidney function was excellent. A very severe systemic infection, that means an infection that spreads from where it started into the bloodstream, can cause a low blood sugar, and we have no evidence of that. He didn't have a fever at the time that someone checked his his temperature at home, and he didn't have low blood pressure, which is associated with widely disseminated severe infection. He did receive an antibiotic prior to the test we do to check for systemic infection, but he received only one dose, and that dose would not likely have been enough to make that blood test negative, and it was negative when it was done at the next hospital. Very, very, very severe malnutrition can cause, rarely, but can cause a low blood sugar. But this gentleman was not malnourished. He had a normal body weight. And in fact, he was interested in bodybuilding and was muscular. So that would not apply. Excess alcohol can cause it in a certain particular circumstance. It can cause it when someone drinks a lot of alcohol and then doesn't eat. That has to do with how alcohol works in the liver, that it suppresses one way of making sugar but not the other. So if someone drinks a lot and doesn't eat for a few days, we can see low blood sugar. And we don't have evidence of that. We don't have a history of alcohol use. His alcohol level was undetectable, and that's not an issue. An insufficiency of the adrenal gland can cause low blood sugar, rarely in adults, mainly in children, but it can. And we don't have any evidence that this person had a problem with his adrenal. It was working very well. He was on a nasal steroid, which sometimes if used in very high amounts could possibly suppress his adrenal gland, but that wouldn't be operative in him. And those steroids are not strong enough to cause adrenal insufficiency. Sometimes medications unrelated to diabetes can cause low blood sugar, but there are very, very few that are really believable. I made a list of the medicines he said he was taking. One of those on the list, I subsequently learned, was not what he was taking. He thought he was taking something called enclomiphene, which people may have heard of as a fertility drug. Sometimes testosterone. He thought he was taking that, but he was actually taking letrozole, which is a medicine that is used in breast cancer patients to stop male hormones from converting to female hormones, and downstream that tells the body to make more testosterone. So that doesn't have an effect on blood sugar. He was maybe taking a seizure medicine. It's not clear if he's taking it, that's not associated with blood sugar problems. He was taking pseudoephedrine. If anything, pseudoephedrine would raise the blood sugar, but it doesn't cause low blood sugar. He was taking an asthma medication and some inhaled antihistamine, and again, those do not cause low blood sugar. A malignancy is another cause. Malignancy, that means cancer, is another cause of low blood sugar when it's widely spread and very end stage, and it's not very common, and we had no evidence of that in this healthy young man. There is a tumor of the pancreas. It's called an insulinoma. Oma means tumor, making insulin. And those are rare. I've seen a number of them. They tend to present over time. Someone has complaints over months to years when the blood sugar is found to be low. And they're relatively easy to treat. They don't they're not what we call refractory, meaning hard to treat, where you have to give a lot of sugar to bring the sugar up. So it would be very, very unlikely that he would have had an insulinoma. The next item, number 11, is a very, very rare situation where there's no insulinoma, but the body acts like there is one. And we see this most often in people who have had gastric bypass surgery. And he did not. So that would be highly unlikely. Near finally, there is what we call the factitious use of medications that cause low blood sugar, where someone takes them, call for attention, call for help. We don't know why that happens. And they're pills. Those pills rarely, some of them are very weak and don't cause low blood sugar. Some of them are stronger and can cause low blood sugar, but they don't cause a low potassium, which we'll talk about later. And our patient here had a low potassium. Finally, antibodies to insulin can cause a low blood sugar. It's been rarely reported in Caucasians. It's mainly reported in Asian countries and in patients with autoimmune problems. And our patient here did not have autoimmune problems. There was a small amount, or we don't know how much, the urine screen for benzodiazepine, which is a tranquilizer, was found in his urine. Usually when that's found, we need to have a blood test to follow up on how much and what it could be, but that wasn't done. There have been some reports of low blood sugar with that medicine. I looked at them carefully. There was a paper from Iran that said that people who came in with overdose of benzodiazepine had lower sugar than those who had other reasons for symptoms. And interestingly, in that paper, they didn't tell us what the blood sugar was. They didn't say how low the blood sugar was. Another paper by those same authors reporting something similar showed blood sugars in the 80s. And we generally define low blood sugar as less than 55. So I'm not sure if that information is quite believable, and it's not in the mainstream of the list of medicines that cause low blood sugar. Some antibiotics we know can cause low blood sugar. He did not receive any of those that we're aware of.
Doctor, you indicated you had the records from Raleigh General Hospital from his admission on February 6th of 2019. Did you see in there the blood glucose level that Raleigh General's testing detected?
Yes.
What was it?
21.
21. What's the clinical significance of a 21 blood glucose level?
I would call that a profoundly low blood sugar. Very, very low, which we rarely see. And it's at the magnitude that we were seeing in the cases that I reviewed in the other two series that I told you about, where it's extremely low. I would say that, for me, it's a big call to attention. What is this about? Why is this sugar so low?
But as you've already indicated, even though that calls your attention to it, it did not at Raleigh General Hospital, and none of the testing that you've suggested was performed.
That's correct.
What is the impact on blood glucose of skipping meals?
I'm sorry, I lost the last part of your question.
What is the impact on blood glucose of skipping meals?
A normal person will not have a low blood sugar if he or she skips a meal. The only time that would happen in a normal person is maybe someone treated with insulin for diabetes or with another medication that causes insulin to be produced for diabetes, and then they don't eat. Yes, we can see a low blood sugar, but a non-diabetic person who doesn't eat will have a normal liver response and produce enough sugar to keep the sugar in the normal range. Our bodies are designed to maintain normal blood sugar, and skipping a meal will not cause a low blood sugar in a normal person.
What's the impact of alcohol abuse on blood glucose?
As I said earlier, when someone has a big binge of alcohol and then doesn't eat, that combination is required to cause low blood sugar. If you have an alcohol binge and eat, it's not going to happen.
Now, you mentioned that you found significance in the potassium level of Mr. Cochran at Raleigh General Hospital. Can you expand on that, please?
Yes. There are very few causes of low potassium. Let's go through them. If someone has severe diarrhea, they can lose potassium. If someone has very significant vomiting, copious, tons of vomiting over and over and over for a long period of time, they can lose potassium. If someone is taking a diuretic that wastes potassium in the urine, they can have a low potassium. If someone has too much cortisol production over a long period of time by a tumor in either the adrenal or the pituitary, they could have low potassium. But really more the adrenal, not the pituitary. But another cause of low potassium is a high dose of insulin. In fact, for years we were treating high potassium with a combination of insulin and sugar. The reason is insulin drives sugar into the cell, and at the same time it drives potassium into the cell. So it takes it out of the bloodstream and makes the potassium low. And as I told you, I had reviewed a lot of cases of insulin, people who had received high doses of insulin in West Virginia and in Pennsylvania, and a good number of them also had low potassium for no other reason that we could determine.
Doctor, you also mentioned at Raleigh General there was a detection of benzodiazepine in Mr. Cochran's body. How did Raleigh General determine that?
They did a urine screen, which is a first step, and it's usually followed by a blood test, but that was not performed.
In this case, did the urine screen tell you the amount of the benzodiazepines in Mr. Cochran's system?
No, it doesn't tell us the amount, and it doesn't even tell us when he might have taken it.
Can you expand on that, please?
Before.
I'm sorry?
The urine screen could be positive for a number of days after someone's taken a benzodiazepine.
Okay. And, Doctor, what is the impact of taking insulin if you're a non-diabetic and a basically healthy person and they receive insulin? What's the impact of that?
A healthy person who receives insulin, certainly a significant amount, will have a low blood sugar reaction because their own pancreas makes enough insulin that they don't need it, and it will drive the sugar down.
Is there any way to tell, in retrospect, how much insulin it would have taken for Michael Cochran's blood glucose level to be at 21?
No, but it was likely a fair amount, enough to drive the potassium down and to lower the sugar to that very, very low level. The kind of studies that are done about how insulin works and how much is needed are done in first normal volunteers to see what the time course of action is of the insulin. And those patients are given the insulin, and they're also given sugar back so they don't get sick from low blood sugar. And in patients with diabetes, we give a variety of doses depending on their needs. So we don't really have data. No one is experimenting with giving very large doses of insulin to normal people because they don't need it. And there's not a reason for us to know about that.
The result of a blood glucose level of 21 at Raleigh General Hospital, would that be the expected result if Mr. Cochran had been given insulin that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, it's all the questions the state has. Thank you.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Selden.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Krieger. I'm Stanley Selden. I'm co-counsel for Natalie Cochran.
Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, how did you learn of this case, and who hired you?
I received a call sometime in 2022, probably, from Mr. Hatfield.
Who was the prosecuting attorney at that time, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Did Mr. Hatfield hire you on behalf of the prosecutor's office and the state of West Virginia?
Yes.
Okay. And they are paying your fee, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Just a few preliminary questions. Why does the body need blood sugar?
We need blood sugar to fuel our cells to do all the work of staying alive. The brain needs blood sugar to work. The muscles need it. It's the engine of life.
And how does blood sugar work in the body?
What do you mean?
What's the source of blood sugar in the body, and how does it affect the body? How does it work in the body?
Food is the source of blood sugar, but it is also a deposit of substances in the liver and the muscles to keep the blood sugar normal when we're not eating. After all, people sleep for 8 or 10 hours. They might not eat for 12 hours, yet the blood sugar is maintained.
Excuse me, doctor. I asked you, just a moment, Dr. Krieger. I asked, how does sugar work in the body?
It fuels the metabolism.
What is hypoglycemia?
Hypoglycemia means low blood sugar, usually defined as less than 55.
And how do you come up with that figure? Because the information I have is that in a 38-year-old male like Michael Cochran, low blood sugar is defined as less than 70 milligrams per deciliter, not 55.
Well, like in many definitions, there are all sorts of sources that you might read, but the conventional level that I'm aware of from my reading and teaching is 55. 70 is what might refer to below 70. Some of the hormones might change in response to what the body might think is a falling blood sugar, but 70 is not defined as low blood sugar.
Is there any specific number or measure of blood sugar in a 38-year-old male Caucasian? What's the range of, quote, normal, unquote?
Well, that changes over time. You know, these types of things are not fixed. Usually 80 to 100. Diabetes begins at 125, and pre-diabetes begins at 100. These are fasting levels.
Okay, so
Levels will go up after meals.
all right. So from that answer, you said 80 and up, and then you talked about diabetes. So 70 actually would be low blood sugar level in a 38-year-old male Caucasian, correct?
No.
It's not?
Correct.
Okay. It's not within the normal limits that you just said. You said 80 to an upper number of 100, 120, something like that. Right?
But 70 is not considered hypoglycemia
All
or
right.
low. I look at hundreds of laboratory reports a week, and I would not pay attention to 70 in a healthy person.
All right. Let me move on. It's been suggested or alleged that Michael Cochran, on February 6th of 2019, got an injection of insulin on that day. Now, they're referencing a specific type of insulin, Humalog Lispro insulin. That is what we call a fast-acting type of insulin. Isn't that correct?
Humalog or Lispro is a fast-acting insulin.
Right.
Yes.
And if an injection of Lispro Humalog insulin is injected in a person, it takes approximately 15 minutes for it to start to work. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if someone was injected with this specific type of insulin, they wouldn't just drop to the ground unconscious immediately. It would take some time for it to act. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Now, this particular type of insulin works over a specified period of time. And that time period, when it's active or working in the body, is approximately 3 to 4 hours. Isn't that correct?
Well, that varies.
Is that not a
That
good...
depends.
Let me clarify. It works for, at most, 4 to 5 hours in the body. Isn't that correct? Under normal circumstances.
Under normal circumstances, but at high doses, it could last considerably longer.
What do you consider a high dose? Let me clarify that. If a 10 milliliter bottle of insulin was injected into a normal person, approximately how long would it be active in the body?
Well, that's a huge amount of insulin, and we can't know how long it would be active, but we do know that massive doses and very high doses last a lot longer than conventional doses.
But you don't know how long that lasts, right?
No one knows because no one would study that. It's not done in healthy people, and we wouldn't need to know that. So there's no information about that. But we do know that higher doses last longer.
Is there any definitive information that says human Lispro insulin injected into the body works any longer than 7 hours, no matter what the dosage is?
We don't have that information.
Okay.
But we don't know how many doses he got, how many injections he got.
You've answered my question. Thank you. Now, I believe you said that you recognized that a urine toxicology test was done on Michael Cochran when he was admitted on February 6, 2019 to the hospital, and that test was positive for benzodiazepines. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And this urine toxicology test or report could not tell you the identity or the blood level of benzodiazepines. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And we don't know the source of those benzodiazepines. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that benzodiazepines can cause low blood sugar and hypoglycemia?
That's been reported, but as I said earlier, the reports are vague. They don't list the blood sugar levels, and in one paper that reports it, the blood sugar is listed in the 80s as average. So that is not clearly, it has not been clearly established.
So are you saying that benzodiazepines in someone can't cause low blood sugar?
I'm saying that we don't have a lot of information supporting that, and the information we do have is quite weak, as it is with a lot of other medicines that have been linked with hypoglycemia.
All right, let me move on to another question. Are you aware that a drug overdose of benzodiazepines could cause what they call hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy with cerebral edema, which we'll call HIE?
No.
You're not aware that benzodiazepines can cause that condition, which includes cerebral edema?
No, I'm not.
Well, I would submit to you that HIE with cerebral edema is a condition that's essentially irreversible brain damage caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain with brain fluid on the brain, right? Isn't that the definition of HIE with edema?
I can't comment since it's not a condition I'm familiar with, and I'm not a neurologist or expert in that topic.
So you don't know, correct?
Yes.
Is hypoglycemia the only cause for cerebral edema? Because you talk about cerebral edema in your testimony previously.
No, it is not.
Okay. Isn't it true that other causes of cerebral edema include drug overdose, brain cancer, tumors, high-altitude carbon monoxide poisoning, trauma, systemic infection, encephalitis, and hepatic encephalopathy?
That sounds like a reasonable list, none
Okay.
of which we know he has.
I didn't ask you that. You don't know if he had a drug overdose or not, correct?
Yes.
Wouldn't this cerebral edema, and again, that's fluid on the brain, from these other causes appear the same on a CT scan?
Yes. The brain tumor might not appear the same, because that would be localized.
Okay, but these other causes, these other causes could appear on a CT scan, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And that CT scan shows brain damage. That's the reason to do a CT scan, right?
The reason to do the CT scan in his case was that he had an altered consciousness.
And altered consciousness could mean he had damage to his brain, right?
Yes.
Okay. And a CT scan doesn't tell you the cause of cerebral edema, correct?
Yes.
So to sum up these questions, Michael Cochran's cerebral edema, which was diagnosed, and might be the cause of his brain problems and ultimate brain death, isn't solely caused by hypoglycemia. Isn't that correct?
Well, you're asking me about Michael Cochran. I think the question I can answer is hypoglycemia is not the only cause of cerebral edema.
Okay, that's sufficient. You comment in your report that there were no other abnormalities to cause Michael Cochran's hypoglycemia. Did you not see Michael Cochran's extremely elevated white blood cell count, which was above 17,000?
I did see that,
Okay,
and that can be
that's all I asked you. And for the jury's information, white blood cells in the body fight infections and toxins and things of that sort. Isn't that correct? That's one of their functions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they can be raised by a number of things. Not
Okay.
only
And that wasn't my question. My question was, one of their functions is to fight infection. And you answered that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see the report in the emergency room that included infection for which he was given intravenous antibiotics?
He received one dose of an intravenous antibiotics because they were
Okay,
worried
now,
about
I just
aspiration
asked
pneumonia.
I just asked you if you saw the report that says he was given intravenous antibiotics, and your answer is yes. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, an infection in the body can cause low blood sugar levels as well as insulin. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Just a moment, Your Honor. I want to review my notes very quickly.
All right.
Michael Cochran was admitted to the hospital on February 6th of 2019, and he received treatment at Raleigh General and CAMC in Charleston for approximately 5 days when he was discharged on February 11th of 2019 to hospice care. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And during that whole time, with doctors treating him, doing various tests, going through everything to try and figure out what his problems were, there was no suspicion of insulin in his body, and they didn't do any testing to definitively decide that. Isn't that correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. All right, now I want to discuss Michael Cochran's glucose or blood level or blood sugar levels from the time he was admitted on February 6th of 2019 at approximately 12 noon. And I have an exhibit, which I would like marked as defendant's next numbered exhibit.
He was not admitted at 12 noon, just to be correct.
I didn't say 12 noon, I just said he was admitted. Okay?
This is defendant's exhibit number 10, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And I have previously given a copy to
All right.
I'd like to put it on this viewer if possible, and I'm not real adept at that, so I could use some assistance.
All right. I'll ask the bailiff to assist. We may not be able to do that, Mr. Selden, because I think we're using that device to project Dr. Krieger.
Is there any way I can project this onto the screen so the jury can see it?
We'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. We'll have to pass it from one juror to another.
Why can't we just slide this aside and use the viewer?
We can try. See what happens.
Because I'm going to be referring to specifics in this, and passing it from one jury to the other would probably take forever.
All right.
Set it here. Your Honor, there was a suggestion by my co-counsel that perhaps we could take a break, make multiple copies of this to distribute to the jury so they can refer to it.
All right. That sounds like a plan. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a good time for us to take our break. You may be getting tired of donuts at this juncture. You've eaten a lot of them, and the leftovers I usually eat, so it's bad whenever you leave a whole bunch of them. If you would like to have a different type of treat, tell the bailiff, and we will accommodate. We want your experience to be meaningful, and we will treat you like veritable kings and queens. We will try to accommodate your wishes. Please do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else, and we'll break for 10 or 15 minutes, and hopefully we'll have the technology straightened out by the time you come back. You may go with the bailiff to your jury room.
Thought I could zoom a little bit there because we started a little bit late, but it seems like they're taking their break. So there's no such thing as too many donuts. That'll help their high blood sugar, right? And their glucose levels. Good shot of that's really funny. That's kind of ironic. Here they are talking about high blood sugar, and here go eat a ball of dough that's like jam packed with sugar. Said any jury ever. Too many donuts. That's funny. Pay me dang, I want one too. Trial Junkies United judge sent them to the room. Father, I need to go snort coffee. I was going to say caffeine. I need to go snort coffee. Let's run a test on the jury. Yeah, their blood sugar, it's going to be too high, right? They're going to have hyperglycemia, not hypo. Bab-dried fried sugar. Is that a Homer Simpson? Yeah, Baca, you're keeping track, right? 0 objections from either side. Yeah, Sugar on top of sugar. I don't know what the deal is with my body, but I am super, super sensitive, especially first thing in the morning. If I have even a strawberry, go straight to my head. Forget about when I was younger and I would have a donut. I'm like, oh, I would be buzzing, and it was not a fun buzz. Did not like that. Yeah, they're going to want to take a nap. Yep. After this, they need a dose of something to wake them up. Yep. Follow until the sugar crash. Yeah, that's the thing. So I have to be really careful about what I eat first thing in the morning. Hold on, I want to pull this one up. Rachel B., get the West Virginians some pepperoni rolls. Is that what they eat in West Virginia? Only fan. Coffee powder, go. Brad says, but after a while their blood sugar will crash and they'll doze off. That's why they need more donuts. Yeah, right. It's this perpetual thing, for sure. All right, I'm not going to do a recap because they're going to come back any minute, so I'll wait to do a recap. Did you guys hear about that's? Oh, wait, Hellcat. Wow. Rachel B. That's their national food is pepperoni rolls. That's funny. Momo Shark, raisin bread, please. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Brat, I vote in favor of pepperoni. Child Junkies United, I love my sweets. I'm waiting on my waffles. Doc is cooking, LOL. I'm a sweets person too. Aaron goes for more cheese and carbs. I go for more sweets. But first thing in the morning, I can't do it. It just my brain just fries out. I do eat, fruit in the morning, but I have to balance that with some nuts. I have oatmeal. I started doing that the last couple months because I felt I was just getting too much sugar in the morning. Peanut butter, I have to balance it out. But if I just have because I have strawberries, bananas, blueberries, oatmeal, some yogurt, some nuts, some peanut butter, and mix that all up into a big concoction of goo. But as I'm cutting things up, if I just pop a strawberry, I'll start to tweak out. And a tweaked out squeegee is not a good look squeegee. Let's see. Yeah, our internet is just acting really wonky today. So if you guys get kicked out, just come back. Child Junkies United. Doc is salty. He likes chips more than sweets. The shock and horror. I usually have yogurt, blueberries, and granola. Yeah, I used to do granola. I used to buy it, but it's just expensive, and they add a bunch of sugar. So then we started to make it. But I haven't done that. It's easier for me now just to do oatmeal in the morning. Hellcat, I could live on sweets alone. I'm a chocolate. I love chocolate. Green Melandri, I love my oatmeal. It's really funny because growing up, that's what I always had was oatmeal and eggs and toast, and my mom was square meal, every morning. And then in my 20s, 30s, 40s, I was like, oatmeal, that's for kids, But now here I am in my 50s going back to oatmeal. It's funny how it's come full circle. Pammy says, I'm not a sweet person. Give me salty, greasy, crunchy, carbsy anytime. You and Aaron. And Baca. Pammy, me too. Give me gravy. Give me some gravy. Don't get me wrong. I love carbs. I love cheese. I love salt as well. And chips for sure. But then at the end of a meal, I always have to have a sweet of some sort. Pammy, yep. You guys got to get together. Child Junkies United, we would have to experience that squeegee to see. Hey, Aaron, pass some strawberry. Just in the name of experiment. We have oatmeal a couple of times a week too, yeah. It's just easier. I mean, I love granola, trust me. I used to get those little granola bars. Love those. Oh, looks like Court might be coming back. I love the granola bars, but again, it just gets expensive, It's like just make your own, I guess. But they just add so much sugar. Because I'd look at the bar and be like, 28 grams, 32 grams of sugar. I'm like, here I am thinking I'm eating healthy, but I'm just eating, might as well just take a teaspoon of sugar and suck on that. Not that that's bad, but you think you're eating healthy, but in fact you are not. Yeah, the older I get, the more I look at the labels, and if I see more than 5 things on a label, I'm gone. It's just too much. Should be like 3 things at tops, depending on what it is. You know, like what do I get? I get chips. It should be, or peanut butter. Peanut butter should be peanuts and salt, and that's it. And then you look at some of these brands, and it's just all kinds of stuff. I'm like, why? It should just be peanuts and salt. So I'm getting off on a tangent. What do you guys think so far of Miss, what's her name, Krieger? I wonder if she's Robbie Krieger's, wonder if she's related to Robbie Krieger. Dr. Diane Krieger, who's an endocrinologist. So it's funny, she's in internal medicine at Harvard. I have a relative who is in internal what is she? Gastrointestinal at Yale. I wonder if they know each other, because Harvard and Yale. I live to eat, not eat to live. Yes. Oh, I love to eat too. Trust me, Baka. I am a huge fan of cooking and meal prepping. And I guess the older we get, the older Aaron and I get, the more we're just, we actually look at the labels and we're just shocked at what we see and some of the stuff and the way we used to eat. I was always pretty healthy. I never really ate like processed. I never really ate McDonald's and Wendy's. Just not a fan of that stuff. So I always kind of stayed away from that. But the older I get, it's just we just pretty much make everything ourselves. Pesto, hummus, baba ganoush, tzatziki. What else? Aaron makes this great queso dip out of cashews. It's phenomenal. We make cheese. Yeah, I don't know. I just enjoy it. I enjoy the meal prep. What do you guys make? What are some things you guys make? Do you guys make any dips? We're big fans of dips. What kind of dips do you guys make? Meg says, if only we read and understood the labels when we were younger. That's true. I grew up, my mom was a huge cook. We had a huge garden, so everything was fresh. So I kind of just got into the habit of not. And then when I was like in my teens, my buddies would go to like McDonald's, and I'd be like, I'd eat it, and I'm like, this just isn't. And then I wouldn't feel good, I mean, ultimately, I just didn't feel good afterwards. So I'm like, why would I eat this stuff and not feel good about it afterwards? Trial Junkies United. I didn't eat healthily until Doc had his brain tumor taken out. When we went vegan. Yeah, we hadn't eaten out in over 6 years. That's cool. Shirley Roth says, I make roasts, meat sauces. Yep, with veggies. Cool. Queso, nice. Hellcat had queso last night. Very good. Trial Junkies United. Doc made chili yesterday. Yeah, I'm gonna make some chili for the Super Bowl. That's just kind of what we do. Aaron orders chicken wings, and I make a chili. No meat, but chili. Bap says you make taco dip. It's kind of like a queso dip, but no Velveeta. I use cheddar, sharp cheddar and crema. It's very healthy. Cool. Baka says, I'm impressed with my daughter and how she feeds her Lils, homemade baby food and all. That's great. Rachel B. coming in hot. I make microwave dino nuggets. I'm sorry. Were you being serious? I'm sorry. I'm just. Oh my God. I hope you weren't being. I hope you were kidding. I'm sorry, Rachel. I hope you were kidding. I love roasts. Hate Baka. I love roasts. Hate how they make my house smell for days though. What's up with that? I don't know. Meg, yes, grow and eat your own food. My family always grew their own veggies and was a big fruit and veg family. Agreed. And you just feel better. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's how do you feel? Gina, you're making chili tonight. Yeah, I mean, if you eat, you should eat and feel better after you eat. You shouldn't eat and then feel worse, right? Isn't that? Oh, Shirley, you worked at McDonald's for 10 years. A treat, okay, but can make my own. Oh, man, when I was in New York and I'd walk past Burger King or McDonald's and it was just, it just smelled terrible. Smelled terrible. Ken Rosenberg, I might be terrible at the internet, but I don't immediately see anything new about Owens and Henderson. Well, now, Tanika 2 Cents did a stream the other day. I'm just going to lay this one on you. Both of them were investigated. Oh man, this is terrible. For SA. Oh, it's absolutely horrific what these guys did to this poor girl. Yep. James Owens, he was a football jock. Henderson, they go back to high school. Yep, they're charged in 1998 of SA on a woman, and it is brutal what they did to her. Go check out Tanika's 2 Cents. We watched it over the weekend. Shocked. Oof. Bap says, my favorite thing to make is hot wings, but the closer I get to 40, the more they bite back. Yeah. All right, Rachel, I hope that you were kidding about the dino nuggets. Or if that's what you do, that's cool. Hey, I used to use a microwave all the time, but don't anymore. Widespread panic. Hey, I'm not allowed to use anything but the microwave in the kitchen. You explode a few eggs on the ceiling, suddenly you're not allowed to use the stove. What? There's got to be a story there. How can you explode eggs? Come on. There's no way that you exploded eggs on the stove. That's really funny. Oh geez, Tony Henderson fathered a child to a 14-year-old. Oh man, it just gets worse with Henderson and Owens. Yikes. State attorney wants former public defender disbarred. Oof. Yikes. Yeah, there's some serious stuff going down with the Owens and Henderson. Yeah, Tanika's 2 Cents has, not that you have to go there and watch it now, stay here, but Tanika's 2 Cents, check it out later today or tonight. She did something over the weekend. Oof. All right. Hashtag not a chef. Hashtag dead serious. All right, Rachel. Maybe that was your dream. Was that me laughing at your use of microwave instead of me yelling at you? I was chuckling at your use of, at your use of microwave. And trust me, I used to use the microwave all the time. Draw Junkies United, you have seen some of the documents on Owens? Yeah, it's just disgusting, right? OnlyFan, my brother microwaved an egg, had to get a new one. A new egg or a new microwave? Well, the joke in my, is there still court going on? All right. The joke in my family was my dad would burn water, so he was not allowed in the kitchen, which is fine. Rachel B. Oh, follow new brother or new microwave. I went with a new egg. If I was going with a new brother, that's funny. So my brother microwaved an egg, had to get a new one. A new brother, a new microwave, or a new egg. That's funny. Okay, widespread panic. It's a pretty minor story. I forgot I left some eggs boiling for breakfast. No footage, but we had to get a ladder to clean it up. So they just exploded. I live on cereal. I used to love having granola and like milk, like as a treat at the end of the day. That was always fun, as a dessert, if you will. Yeah, Ken, all these YouTube lawyers misbehaving. Oh, it's just gross what they did to her, just gross. Brat, I'm not quite in the burn water brigade, but I'm not good at much beyond boiling water. Yeah, I guess my dad, he was absent-minded, and he would turn on water to, make tea or whatever, and he forgot it, I guess. So that's where the burning water came in. Baka of 3, 4 years of college, and my husband could cook to save himself. Could or could not? And my husband could cook to save himself? Did your husband... Yeah, am I reading that right? It's really funny, like how you learn when you're on your own. You either eat out a lot, which gets very expensive. So when you're like 22, 23, 24, and you're a starving artist, you don't do that very often. So you figure out what to eat. So rice and beans became my friend for many, many years. And then you learn to throw stuff in, vegetables. And you go out with a few people, and they're like, try this, try that. So I learned to cook at a very young age, if you will. Take care of myself, if you will. BAP. One time I made hamburger helper and put condensed milk instead of evaporated milk. That was all bad. I've never used condensed milk or evaporated milk in hamburger helper. What happens? Does it just get all gloopy or does it explode? Oh, Baca says he couldn't. Okay, 4 years of college and he couldn't cook to save himself. Yep, widespread panic, ramen noodles. Shirley Roth, I love cooking and baking, but now I cook 2 or 3 things at one time. It's easier. I do a lot of meal prep. Erin and I do meal prep on Saturday and Sunday, and then that's all we do. It's great. Trial Junkies United. Doc is the cook around here. He's an awesome cook. Homemade pizza every Saturday. Nice. Nice. Oh, condensed milk is sweet. Oh, so the home hamburger helper, it made it, I guess it made it sweet. I gotcha. Momo Shark, my son's first job was cook at a local burger place. You know, I always resisted going to work at local pizza because I love pizza so much. I'm like, I didn't want to work at a pizza place because I didn't want to get sick of it. So I was like, I'm not going to work at a restaurant because I'll get sick of the food. OnlyFans meal preps are the way to go. I hear you. I hear you. Baca 3, my daughter does meal prep too. Yep. What's a hamburger helper? OnlyFan is asking. BAP, sweet cheesy hamburger. Might not have been too bad. What is up with court? Why are they not back yet? This is way more than 10 minutes. Hamburger help. Oh, spoke too soon. All right, they're back.
Okay, you can be seated, Doctor. You're still with us?
I am.
Did you receive an email copy of a document?
I did, and I printed it out.
All right, good deal. Are there any matters that we need to take up at this time out of the presence of the jury?
Only one, Judge.
Go ahead.
Dr. Kubicek will be on for a Teams meeting at 1:30 this afternoon in terms of plotting strategy.
Okay. Do you happen to have a witness in the meantime?
We do.
Okay, good. Anything from the defense?
No,
Mr.
Your
Sullivan.
Honor.
Bring in the jury, please, bailiff. All right, members of the jury, you will see that you have a document in your seat. That is the document that has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit number 10. We will presumably find out more about that matter shortly, and you can follow along in terms of the testimony. Please continue, Mr. Selden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before we get to Defendant's Exhibit number 10, I'd like the jury just to set that aside for a moment. I have a couple of questions before we get into it.
Go ahead.
Now, Dr. Krieger, it's been alleged that Michael Cochran took a variety of supplements, substances, or other undeclared medications, and because they've been undeclared, you don't have any idea what he was taking or what effect it had on his body. Wouldn't that be a fair question?
Yes.
Okay. You said that you reviewed one autopsy report. Was that right?
Yes. Prior to my writing of my 2023 report, yes.
Okay. Was that Dr. Kubitschek's report? He's the medical examiner for West Virginia. Is that the report you reviewed? Yes.
Yes.
Did you note in his conclusions that he said the cause of death and the manner of death was undetermined? Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'd like to turn to defendant's exhibit number 10, which the jury has copies of. And you have a copy of that as well, Dr. Krieger. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at the top, it says, with a double asterisk, alleged event is approximately 12 p.m. on February 6, 2019. What that is referring to is that there's an approximation of what time Natalie Cochran, if at any time, she injected Michael Cochran with insulin. That's all that means. And we don't have an exact time. It just says approximate time, 12 p.m. Do you note that at the top?
I see that.
Okay. Because there is no actual witness to Natalie Cochran injecting Michael Cochran on February the 6th of 2019 with anything. We don't have a witness who's going to state that. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, also at the top, there is a note that says hypoglycemia is sugar, meaning blood sugar, less than 70 milligrams per deciliter in a person without diabetes. That's up for debate. You said under 55, I believe. Is that right?
That's right. The reason I said that is that when you testing...
I don't need you to go into any detail. I'm just clarifying what your statement was. Okay? Thank you. Now, this is a chart that has the date and time of testing for blood glucose in Michael Cochran. First column is the date and the time, and unfortunately it's military time, but I'll go through that. The second column is the blood glucose level. The third column is the hours since the alleged event. Again, the alleged event is suspected injection of Michael Cochran with insulin. And the fourth column is, it says, was Lispro active in his body? Lispro is the Humalog insulin alleged to be the subject of all of this controversy. Okay? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. And I hope it's clear to the jury. I'll move on. The first entry is February 6th, 2019, the date when Michael Cochran was first admitted to the hospital. And it says 2020, which is 8:20 p.m. Do you note that?
Yes.
Okay. The second column says that his blood glucose level was 21. Now, you've made a lot of comments about that. That's extremely low by anybody's calculation, right?
Yes.
Okay. The third column says that the time frame of the taking of that level is 8 hours and 20 minutes after the time Michael was supposed to be injected. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay? Is it your testimony that the insulin, Humalog, Lispro, insulin, alleged in the case, could still be active in Michael's body 8 hours and 20 minutes after alleged injection?
It's possible if a very high dose was used or if additional doses were given.
I'm talking about a singular injection of Humalog insulin. Would a singular injection, no matter the quantity, the volume, still be active and causing effects in Michael Cochran's body 8 hours and 20 minutes after injection?
The quantity and volume does matter.
Is it your testimony that the Humalog insulin could still be active in Michael Cochran's body 8 hours and 20 minutes later? Irregardless of the volume, I'm talking about a single injection. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Second column. It's dated February 7th, 2019. That's the next day after Michael's in the hospital. It's 23, which is 12:23 a.m. The blood glucose level isn't available. The third column says 12 hours and 23 minutes after alleged injection of a single dose. Is it your testimony that Lispro, Humalog insulin can still be active in Michael Cochran's body?
Well, there's no additional hypoglycemia except a finger stick further down in the list. So
I'm just asking you, is it your testimony? And I don't care about the blood glucose level. I'm asking, can this type of insulin still be active in Michael Cochran's body 12 hours and 23 minutes later?
It's unlikely.
Okay. So the subsequent tests, well, let me go on. February 7th, 2019, 12:28 a.m. We don't know the blood glucose level. It's now 12 hours and 28 minutes. Is it still your testimony that the insulin is unlikely to be active in Michael's body at this time?
If only one injection were given at that time, yes.
Okay. Now, the next entry is February 7th of 2019. It's 12:33 a.m. Now, Michael's blood glucose is on the rise. It's going up. It's all the way up to 63, 12 hours and 33 minutes later. Now, isn't it true that if there was a single injection and given this level, the insulin's no longer active?
It's likely that it's not a single injection, and
Okay.
the blood sugar is not low.
That's all I asked you. Next entry, February 7th, 1:55 a.m. Blood glucose is on the rise. It's all the way up to 80. 13 hours and 55 minutes. The Lispro insulin's not active anymore, right?
Correct.
Okay. February 7th, 2:17 a.m. Now his blood glucose is all the way up to 187. 14 hours and 17 minutes later. Lispro insulin not active, cannot cause that reaction. Correct?
Well, high blood sugar would be caused by insulin anyway, but yes.
Yeah. And we don't know what time. They're doing things to try and raise Michael Cochran's glucose level. They gave him an injection of dextrose D50 at the emergency room. That is an attempt to raise his blood glucose levels, correct?
Yes.
Right. And it's taking effect. It's working. His blood glucose levels are going up, right?
Yes.
Okay. February 7th, 5:13 a.m. His blood glucose now drops all the way down to 44. 17 hours and 13 minutes later. How do you account for that?
Well, that one could be an outlier because that one was done by finger stick, not by blood, by finger prick. And for my review of the record, I didn't see that anything was done in response to that. And then the next one, shortly
Well, I just asked you. I just asked you.
She's trying to answer the question, Mr. Selden. Let her go ahead.
Okay.
You may continue, Ms. Krieger, Dr. Krieger.
Thank you. What I was saying is that the finger stick at 44, according to my review of the record, did not receive any action. So there was nothing given in response to that. And a short time later, the sugar was normal again. So I don't really know if that has much meaning.
Okay. But you can say, since it's 17 hours and 13 minutes after the alleged injection of insulin, that insulin is not working in Michael's body at this time. Correct?
His own insulin is likely working, but an injection given at noon would not likely be working.
Okay, I'm just asking about the single injection given at noon on February 6th. That's all these questions are directed at. Okay?
Yes.
All right. At 6:22 a.m. on February 7th, his insulin's on the rise again. It's up to 95, and that's within normal range according to your testimony. Isn't that right?
Yes, not insulin, glucose.
Glucose, sorry. Okay. 18 hours, 27 minutes later, insulin not active in his body. Correct?
Yes, and that's from a noon injection.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to go through the other entries. I'm sure the jury appreciates that. But Michael's blood glucose levels are back on the rise, and now they're all the way up into at least normal range, and there's no activity or effect from a single injection of Humalog Lispro insulin alleged to have been given at approximately noon on February 6th. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're done with that exhibit for now.
All right, I'll ask the bailiff to collect the copies. All right.
Now, in your review of all of the records and everything you reviewed in this case, it has been alleged that Michael Cochran was using undeclared supplements or substances or other medications, and because it's not clearly in the records, you wouldn't have any idea what he was taking or its effects on his body. Wouldn't that be a fair statement?
Yes.
You state in your report in the conclusions, in summary, that Michael Cochran's, quote, hypoglycemia due to insulin administration is a strong possibility. So from that statement, you cannot say that insulin was the one and only factor that caused Michael Cochran's hypoglycemia. Isn't that correct?
It's the only credible explanation since none of the other explanations work.
I didn't ask you if it was credible. I said you cannot say it's the one and only. You're only stating it's a strong possibility. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. To what degree of medical certainty is a strong possibility? What is that?
That's not quantified.
Okay. I believe that's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
All right, redirect Mr. Truman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, this started off some time ago by asking who is paying you to be here today, and you responded that the state. Would the fact that the state's paying you cause you to alter your testimony or your opinions in any manner?
No.
Defendant's 10. Doctor, defendant's exhibit number 10, which was a document emailed to you while we were on a break, that's based on some assumptions that there was a single dose at noon. There is nothing in States 10 that would eliminate the possibility of multiple injections of insulin, is there?
Objection, Your Honor. That's not the facts and evidence.
Overruled.
You can answer, Doctor, please.
Yes. It's very likely that there was another injection or another type of insulin in addition or to the Lispro.
There was some discussion about benzodiazepines and Michael Cochran. Is there anything in the records that would cause you to believe that that would be responsible for his low blood glucose level?
No, and in fact, an allergy to a benzodiazepine was noted in his record. When we have a patient who has an allergy to one benzodiazepine, we caution them not to have others. So I don't know how to reconcile all of that, what the allergy was about, and whether he would have why he would have taken that medication.
One theory presented to you by the defense was that his blood glucose level may have dropped because of a drug overdose. Is there any evidence whatsoever that Michael Cochran overdosed on any drug other than insulin?
No.
There was also the matter of the high white blood count. And you started to address that issue and you were stopped. So let me give you the opportunity to explain the treatment and the end result of the high white blood count.
Yes. Well, it is true that we see a high white blood cell count with infection. It's not the only cause. When blood sugar goes extremely low, other hormones rise, and those hormones, particularly cortisol, will cause white blood cells to look high. We see this a lot in patients who have excess cortisol for other reasons, and that's a possible explanation. Since there was no evidence for infection, he didn't have a fever, he didn't have a low blood pressure. I'm talking about enormous infection that would cause a low blood sugar. Fever, no low blood pressure, no evidence of infection on exam, and a negative blood culture after the single dose of antibiotic that would not have tamed a rip-roaring infection bad enough to cause a low blood sugar.
How would you expect a non-diabetic person to physically react if they were given insulin? What kind of symptoms would you expect to see?
There's a cascade of events that occur. As the sugar begins to drop, people feel sweaty, shaky, they can have pounding in their chest, palpitations we call it. We can have, people then can proceed to seizure, to coma, which is from the brain cell edema that we've talked about. So that's the cascade from hunger, shakiness, sweating, pounding in the chest, to seizure, coma.
You had indicated that 55 was the number you considered to be a low blood glucose. Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yes. In the testing we do when we are trying to figure out why someone has a low blood sugar, and we can't explain it yet, we use 55 as the cutoff, and we don't do the extra testing until the blood sugar is less than 55 when there are symptoms, less than 45 when there are no symptoms. So 55 is our cutoff for the testing.
Okay. When Michael Cochran went to Raleigh General and his blood glucose was measured at 21, and this may be out of your field, and if so, just say so, but had the damage already been done by that time?
Well, the brain edema had already started, yes.
That's all the questions the state has. Thank you.
Recross Mr. Selden.
Need to approach the bench.
All right. All right. Further questions, Mr. Selden?
Thank you, Your Honor. There has been testimony throughout this trial that Natalie Cochran allegedly injected Michael Cochran sometime around noon when he collapsed. Then there were people constantly checking. There were people constantly in and out of the house, numerous witnesses, people coming over, staying with Natalie, checking on Michael. So, and then Michael goes into the hospital at approximately 8 p.m. And he's in the hospital from February 6th of 2019 through and including February 10th or 11th when he goes to the hospice and passes away. When would there be an opportunity for Natalie Cochran to inject him multiple times given those facts?
Objection. That's beyond the scope of an endocrinologist's expertise.
Sustained.
From a scientific point, based on the records which note Michael's glucose levels, etc., when would additional injections occur to have the result of altering blood glucose levels, etc.? We went all through that chart of the extensive testing and recording of his blood glucose levels from approximately 8 p.m. on February 6th through his stay at the hospital. Scientific evidence, when would an injection of insulin have occurred to have those results?
You're asking me to speculate.
I'm not asking you to speculate. I'm asking you, given the scientific medical evidence of blood glucose levels February 6th through his stay, like every 15 minutes, every half hour, when would those scientific information show another injection of insulin?
Well, we really have to explain the 21 because the other one, there's only one low, and that's a finger stick that wasn't treated and normalized without treatment. So it's really explaining the 21.
Okay, and the 21 was recorded initially or stated initially by a supposed witness, Ms. Hamilton. She's the one that said it was 21 when Michael was admitted to the hospital approximately 8 p.m. Do you recall that?
Wait a minute.
No, that was the
Wait,
plumber.
objection.
Just wait a minute, Doctor. Go ahead, Mr.
That
Truman.
wasn't the testimony. That came from Raleigh General 21, not Stephanie Hamilton.
All right.
This is a misleading question.
I'll withdraw it and I'll stand corrected.
Okay.
The 21 was when he was admitted to Raleigh General Hospital approximately 8 p.m. When would Natalie Cochran have an opportunity to inject him to cause that decrease in glucose?
Again, I would have to speculate, but sometime later in that afternoon.
All right. The prosecutor asked you on redirect about the white blood cell count. And the simple explanation of that is we don't know the cause of the extreme elevation of the white blood cells. Isn't that correct?
No, there are certainly hypotheses that can be rendered, including.
Well, we don't, just a moment, we don't actually know. There weren't any definitive tests that would account for the elevated white blood cell count. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Very well.
I don't have any more questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Truman, anything further?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very well. Is there any reason to hold this witness at all?
Not so far as the state's concerned.
Any reason from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Doctor. You are excused.
Thank you.
Have we terminated the telephone call? Okay. We're squared away and ready for the next witness to be called, Mr. Truman.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, the state calls Earl Gleam to the stand.
If you'll raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may have a seat right there. All right, Ms. Acord.
Sir, can you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Yes. My name is Earl Gleam. First name is spelled E-A-R-L. Last name is Gleam, G-L-I-E-M.
And how are you currently employed?
I am a physical scientist, forensic examiner, working in the Firearms and Toolmarks unit of the FBI laboratory located in Quantico, Virginia.
Where did you attend school?
I attended school at West Virginia University. I received a Bachelor's of Science degree in Forensic and Investigative Sciences there. And more recently, I completed a Master's of Science at the University of Florida in Pharmaceutical Science with a concentration in Forensic Science as well.
What sort of professional training do you have?
So, as an examiner, as a physical scientist forensic examiner at the FBI laboratory, before we are qualified to perform independent casework, we go through a training program at the laboratory to ensure that we have all of the proper educational requirements and skills to perform the tasks. Excuse me. So when I first started at the Firearms and Toolmarks unit, I went through the forensic examiner training program within that unit, which included required readings, exercises, simulated casework, and working under doing casework under the supervision of a qualified examiner, as well as completing numerous tests before I was qualified to perform independent casework.
Do you have any work experience in this field prior to your current position at the FBI?
So before becoming a physical scientist forensic examiner in the Firearms and Toolmarks unit, I worked as a forensic examiner in the latent print operations unit, and I worked there for approximately 4 years before coming to the Firearms and Toolmarks unit. And I've been with the Firearms and Toolmarks unit for about 9 years now.
Have you given any presentations in your field?
Yes, I have. I've given several case presentations about some of the cases that I've worked in my time as a forensic examiner there. I've also given numerous tours and presentations to groups about the FBI laboratory and our unit as a whole.
And are you a member of any professional organizations or anything like that?
No, I am not.
Okay. Have you ever been qualified as an expert witness in a criminal court?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever been denied qualification as an expert witness in a criminal court?
No, I have not.
Your Honor, subject to cross-examination by the defense, I would move that this witness be treated as an expert pursuant to Rule 702.
All right, Mr. Selden, do you wish to engage in voir dire pertaining to this witness's qualifications?
One moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
What exactly are you being qualified as an expert in? What is your represented area of expertise?
So in the Firearms and Tool Marks unit, my main job duties include the examination of tools and firearms, as well as the items that those tools and firearms come into contact with. I examine both the tools and firearms, determine the makes and models, as well as the types of actions that they can produce, as well as if any microscopic marks of value are present on the surfaces that they come into contact with. I can then do examinations on those marks to determine whether or not those marks were originated from a particular tool or not.
So what you're saying in summary is that you are an alleged expert in the external examination of these objects. Does that be a fair assumption or statement?
Could you explain what you mean by external?
You don't take the contents of, for instance, the vials out. You don't do any chemical analysis. You're talking about how the vial looks from an external view and a microscopic examination of the outside of these objects.
With an object like that, yes. I do not do any chemical examination.
No objection. Accepted.
All right, the court declares this witness to be an expert within his described field of forensic examinations. You may continue, Ms. Akert.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Glenn, did you write a report in this case?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'd like to have marked what I am holding as State's Exhibit 19.
Yes, no, yes. Sorry. This is State's Exhibit number 19, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And this has been shown to the defense, Your Honor.
Very well.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Gleam, I've handed you what is labeled as Laboratory Division Supporting Documentation Envelope. Can you look over that and advise the court if that is the report that you prepared in this matter?
State's Exhibit 19 is a copy of all of the material that I produced as part of this case, to include the report, my case notes, as well as some additional documentation as well.
And what items did you review in this case?
I reviewed, excuse me, well, there's two different designations that we use for them. In the laboratory, we assigned them item 2 and item 4. At the field office level, when they were first received by the field office, which was Pittsburgh in this case. They gave them the designators 1B1 and 1B2.
And I'm going to hand you what has been marked and entered as States Exhibit 10 and States Exhibit 14. Could you please open those and identify them for me?
Do I need gloves to handle them right?
No.
Okay.
Do we have some gloves, Deputy Fry? Hold on
Thank
and
you.
we'll get some.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Eureka, we found a box of gloves. Can you message poor Stephen to tell him that we found some?
Thank you. That's okay.
They may be for children, however.
Goodness. Might go through the whole box. All right. I'm sorry. What was your original question?
Could you identify those items for me?
So,
States 10.
this one. So, States Exhibit 10 is a vial.
And did you examine that vial?
So, I don't see my marking specifically on it. However, most of it is covered with the States Exhibit sticker. It does appear very consistent with my photograph of the item 2 vial that I examined in the laboratory.
And when you refer to that photograph, I'm going to try to fix this. I know this is hard to see. I'll make this look better ones. Trying to make this as visible as I can for everyone in the room. Is this the set of photographs that you're referring to?
Yes, that's correct.
And what are we looking at in these photographs?
We're looking at the photographs that I took during my examination of the item 2 vial. There were numerous pieces So I just took it from different angles, as well as the different components, as well as a close-up of the rubber stopper that I was asked to examine.
And before we move on to stage 14, we'll just stick with stage 10. What sort of testing did you perform on this stopper, this vial?
I was asked to examine the rubber area at the center here to determine if there were any puncture marks in the rubber top of the vial.
And what conclusions did you reach?
I did not detect any punctures or defects in that rubber stopper.
What does the lack of a puncture in that bottle indicate to you?
I need to interrupt. Are we talking about item number 2, which was later marked as item number IB-1? Is that what we are talking about?
That's my understanding of what we're talking about, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'll just repeat the last question. What does the lack of any puncture in the septum of this bottle indicate to you?
It indicates that it was not forcibly contacted by any other object to obtain the contents inside of it.
Now, could you please identify State's Exhibit 14?
Yes.
Is that the same bottle that you performed testing on in your laboratory?
Yes, it is. This is the item 4 vial that I examined in the laboratory. And I recognize both my initials and name and date on the outer packaging, as well as some of the inner packaging here. Excuse me. As well as my initials on the item itself.
And the photographs that I've placed on the overhead that should also appear in front of you on that screen, are these photographs that you took of that bottle and septum during testing?
Yes.
And additionally, did you take these photographs of the septum during testing as well?
Yes, I did.
What sort of testing did you perform on State's Exhibit?
I'm sorry, I need to interrupt for a moment. I'm getting a call from Dr. Banerjee. She's probably telling me she's not getting procedure.
Take the call.
Thank you. Your Honor, there is difficulty in Dr. Banerjee. She's Commissioner approaching.
Yes, please. All right, please continue, Ms. Akron.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gleam, with regard to State's Exhibit 14, which is also identified as item number 4, what type of testing did you perform?
It was mostly a visual examination where I was looking for defects in that rubber top of the vial.
What were the results of that testing?
I detected one defect in the center of the rubber stopper that was consistent with a puncture mark that penetrated through the entire rubber stopper of the vial.
And has anything come to your attention since conducting your original testing on both State's Exhibit 10 and State's Exhibit 14 that would lead you to change any of your conclusions at this time?
No.
I have no further questions, Your Honor, and I would move State's 19 into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Selden?
No objection, Your Honor.
State's exhibit number 19 will be admitted into evidence. You may cross-examine Mr. Selden. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Stanley Selden. I'm co-counsel for the defendant, Natalie Cochran. Welcome to the courtroom.
Morning. Afternoon.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Gleam.
Gleam. Okay. As Gleam, even though that's not the spelling.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me, just a moment, Your Honor. I need to collect my thoughts on this.
All right.
It was a little confusing in some of the testimony. All right. Mr. Green, as to your report on item number 2, which I believe was State's Exhibit number 10, I'm calling your attention to that one. Okay?
Yes. That was a vial that has a large top. And can we have the photographs of that so that we can put them on the viewer?
All right. Who has the photographs?
Photographs are within the report, Your Honor.
Okay.
And hopefully I can get this on the viewer so everyone can see it.
So let's hope.
And could I get some assistance in turning this on?
It is okay.
Okay, good. There we go. Mr. Gleam, are these the photographs that you took of and I believe your description included item number 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
You did external examinations of this, and by that I mean You didn't empty out the contents, you didn't analyze the contents, that was done by somebody else, correct?
That's correct.
And you say no punctures or defects were present on the top or bottom of the surfaces of the rubber stopper. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
The metal ring, and I believe you're talking about this right here.
Yes.
You can see that? And that's the metal ring that would have been around here and right here. Is that right?
Correct. I didn't necessarily examine the metal ring because I believe it had been manipulated before it got to me to remove the contents.
So you can't make any conclusions about that because it was manipulated before it got to you.
Correct. I was only asked to examine the rubber stopper inside of the metal ring.
And this rubber stopper had no defects or punctures or anything like that that you could see. Is that right?
Not that I was able to detect.
Do you know what substances were represented to be in this vial by other testers?
No, I don't.
Very enough. Let's look at this item, which is listed as item number 4. And these are photographs taken by you of this item, correct?
Yes.
Now, you said in examination of this item that you believe, and this item seems to indicate right here, this is Humalog insulin. Would you agree with that label?
Yes, that is how it was labeled.
Now, you say that upon examination, you believe that there was a puncture in the rubber piece right here, correct?
Yes, I believe you lost it on the top there.
Look. I don't know what happened. I may have touched the button now. Okay, great, thank you. I think we're back on, and hopefully I won't touch anything again.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. This indication right here, with this circle that I believe you put on the photograph, right?
Yes, the dashed circle as well as that arrow to like kind of the top right were indicators put on the photograph by me to just give further clarification on the notes.
So from your examination, you believe that was a puncture in the rubber stopper, right?
Yes, that's correct.
You cannot tell if this was a single puncture or if there might have been, no, I'm going to scratch that. You cannot tell when this alleged puncture mark was made, correct?
No, I cannot.
Lieutenant Bledsoe, who gathered this item from, I believe it was 211 4H Lake Road, says that when he retrieved this item, it was full and unopened.
Objection, Your Honor. I don't believe that's ever been stated. Lieutenant Bledsoe has not even testified yet.
Yes, that's true. I must sustain the objection. You can rephrase, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah. From a visual examination, you cannot tell if this was opened or not. You're only stating there was a puncture in the top, right?
Yes, I only observed I only examined the rubber stopper, and this is the result of my examination.
And from your examination, you can't tell who made this puncture mark, correct?
No, I cannot.
You did a visual examination of the bottle, etc. Were there any fingerprints on the bottle?
I did not examine the bottle for fingerprints.
A moment, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
And also, in addition to those questions, not only can you not tell who made the puncture mark, but you can't tell when it was made, correct?
No, I cannot.
One moment, Your Honor. I need to confer.
All right.
Now, the metal ring that you were talking about, and that vial that may or may not have been opened, etc., you stated that, and that was item 2, I believe, you stated that had been manipulated previously, so you couldn't really tell much about it, correct?
Your Honor, may I refer to my notes? I made a note specific to the metal ring that might help me better answer that question.
Okay. Is it in your report?
It's the same copy as the State's Exhibit 19. It's just my copy.
I can give him the report.
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would it be all right if I stand here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just don't lean over too far.
Oh, sorry.
So on my notes, I indicated that the metal ring was loose and easily removed to separate the rubber stopper from the ring. So the metal ring appeared like it had been manipulated prior to myself receiving it because it was so easily removable.
Okay. And I want to show that on the viewer. This is the vial, not the one marked Humalog. It has a label that represents methylprednisone, and you believe, based on your examination, that this one was manipulated, correct?
Well, I don't have all of the documents from the other units of the laboratory, but I believe it did go to other units of the laboratory before I received it. So it's possible that they might have removed that ring to access the contents. It's possible.
Item number 4. from a visual examination of this bottle, can you tell if it's full of liquid or not?
I believe it was empty when I received it.
So how do you believe the contents were removed?
I don't have any information on that.
I need to confer with counsel one more time, and I think I'm winding up.
Okay.
Now, according to your report, items number 2 and items number 4 were found approximately 4 to 5 months after Michael Cochran's death on February 11th of 2019. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of when they were recovered. Well, could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. There are various documents appended to your report, which you reviewed. It's part of your report. From that description, do you believe this item was seized by police or other authorities approximately 4 months after Michael Cochran's death on February 11th of 2019?
I don't have any awareness of the collection of this item of evidence. I can only speak to when it was received into the FBI laboratory and when I worked it in the laboratory, and that's all I can say about the custody of that item.
Okay, I'm going to hand you this report back. I have a few more questions. So looking at that report, when were these 2 items, number 2 and 4, received in your laboratory?
So, to best answer your question, this evidence, I don't have the full chain of custody printouts for each of these items present in my notes printouts. That's information that's typically part of the evidence management unit package that is created for these items that kind of covers the whole lifespan or the whole chain of custody of the movement of the items through the entire laboratory.
Right, and I'm not asking you about all that. I just want to know when these 2 items came into the FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, as far as your investigation.
So the initial communication from the field office about this request for laboratory examinations was initiated on February 9th, 2021.
Okay. And so it can be assumed that came into Quantico about February of 2021.
Yes, approximately. So the communication was initiated on February 9th, and then the initial notes done by the evidence management unit were created on February 10th of 2021.
Okay. So Michael Cochran passed away February 11th of 2019, and this crucial evidence has come into your lab 2 years later. Is that what you're saying?
Those are the dates that are indicated as when we received items in this case.
Okay. You were assigned the items on July 30th of 2021, and you completed your report January 31st of 2022. Isn't that right?
Yes, that appears correct.
Okay. Almost 4 years after Michael Cochran's death, correct? If his death occurred February 11th of 2019.
I'm not familiar with the specifics of the case, but if his death occurred in 2019, I completed my exams in 2022, that would be 3 years.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Redirect Ms. Akron.
Mr. Gleam, through your investigation of State's Exhibit 14, the bottle that is labeled Humalog, I believe also identified as item 4, is it true that you were unable to determine how many times an object had passed through the puncture you identified?
Objection as to the form of the question is leading.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
Were you able to determine how many times any item had passed through that puncture?
No, I was not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. Selden?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down, Mr. Gleam. You
Thank
are
you.
excused.
Thank you.
Make sure you leave all the exhibits here, please.
Yes, sir.
And our gloves.
Yes, Your Honor. I broke more than I used.
That's all right. We won't charge you. Members of the jury, we'll take our lunch break now. Please do not expose yourselves to any reports online, on the radio, or on TV concerning this case. Obviously, you see cameras in the courtroom. You know that this case is being filmed. Again, I want you to make an independent decision at the close of all the evidence. Please enjoy your lunch. I'll give you a little bit of extra time on your lunch break because we're getting a little late start. I'll need you back in your jury room a little bit before 1:15, please, and we'll start back up promptly. Technology allowing. You may follow the bailiff to your jury room.
All right, so they are going to take a lunch, and I'm going to recap a little bit, and then I'm going to take a lunch, and we're going to do a redirect to, we're going to start another feed, because this one is just being so wonky. So hopefully it'll work a little bit better. All right, so this morning we heard from, let's see, day 4. Where's day 4? Here we go. So for starters, we heard from Dr. Diane Krieger, who is an endocrinologist. She came on via Zoom, and she basically is an expert in internal medicine, and she deals with glands, which are pancreas, thyroid, pituitary, etc. She's board certified and licensed. She was a part of 2 serial killer trials, which I thought was interesting. Cause of Michael's passing was cerebral edema, caused by hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. And cerebral edema is basically swelling of the brain cells. There's not enough blood sugar or oxygen going to the cells. So I was wondering at the beginning of this trial, Mike, are we going to hear from the ME? Like what? So he had a bunch of insulin in his body. Like Why should we care? Or how does that affect you? That's how it affects you. There's not enough blood sugar or oxygen going to your cells. So low blood pressure could be a cause of malnutrition, excess alcohol, insufficient adrenal glands. That can all cause low blood sugar. Medications may have been a cause, but not sure if he was taking seizure or asthma meds. You need a lot of sugar to affect the pancreas, so she didn't think it was that. Gastro bypass surgery may cause issues. Michael didn't have that. Low potassium could have caused it, but that's usually just in the Asian population. Benzodiazepine was in Mike's urine, but a very low amount. His blood glucose level was 21, and she said that is profoundly low. And I'm like, what's the average? What's the normal? So eventually we found out normal is around 75 to 80. That's where you want to be. I wish they had asked her that, but they didn't. The impact of skipping meals, she said, normal person wouldn't have a low blood sugar. Big binge on alcohol and you don't eat may lower your blood sugar. Impact of insulin will definitely drive your blood sugar down. So that's the thing right there. That's the big deal. She could not determine how much insulin was given or taken, but it was likely a fair amount. Then on cross, do you need blood sugar to fuel our cells? He asked, what is blood sugar? She says, we need it to fuel our cells, our brains, our muscles. It's the engine of life. What is the source? Food is the source of blood sugar. How does sugar work in the body? It fuels the metabolism. What is hypoglycemia? She said it starts at around 55 or so, but then Mr. Sheldon came back and said he found it was less than 70. So what is the normal range? And she said 80, diabetes starts at like 100, 125. So would 70 be low blood sugar? She says no. Massive doses last a lot longer. Don't know because healthy people don't do that. I thought that was good. He's like, so she's basically saying the amount of volume. He kept saying, I'm not asking you that, I'm not asking you that. But she's like, no, it does matter. And the reason we've never tested that is because healthy people just don't inject a whole vial of insulin because you will probably die. It's just not a thing that we test. Hold on. Let's see. They did a urine toxicology test, was done on Mike, and he was positive for benzodiazepines. And those can cause low blood sugar and hypoglycemia. But Dr. Krieger said the reports are vague and don't list the blood sugar levels. She was asked, you don't know if Mike OD'd or not. She said, correct. To sum up these questions, this is Mr. Sheldon saying, Mike's cerebral edema isn't solely caused by hypoglycemia. Isn't that correct? And Dr. Krieger said, hypoglycemia isn't the only cause of cerebral edema. Mike was given a dose of IV antibiotics. I don't think we knew that. No suspicion of insulin in Mike's body, and they didn't test it, did they? And she said, no. No, what are you doing? Hey, do. Ugh, that's a disaster about to happen. Would a single injection still be in Mike's body 8 hours after? This is where she said the volume matters. And he went back and forth with her, like, it does matter if it's like, a milliliter or 10 milliliters. I mean, of course it matters. At 10:30 a.m., Mike's glucose was going up to 63, which was 12 hours later. Then at 14 hours later, his glucose was at 187. Then it drops to 44 17 hours later. She said that could be an outlier. It was done by a finger prick. So she said instead of taking blood. Really, dude? Rafa is entertaining us back there. Insulin is not working in Mike's body at this time, given the time given at noon, February 6th. And she said, yes, insulin is not working in Mike's body. So redirects comes back in. Did benzos cause low blood glucose levels? She said no. Is there any evidence that Mike OD'd on any drug other than insulin? Dr. Krieger said no. and they talked about the high blood count, high white blood count. She was trying to explain that, but she was stopped. So infection is not the only cause. Hormones rise and cause white blood count to appear high. So there was no infection present in Mike. By the time Mike got to the hospital, brain edema had already begun. And then Cross came back with, when would Natalie have an opportunity to inject Mike? And she said, if I had to speculate, he literally was asking her to speculate. So she said, if I had to speculate, sometime that late afternoon. Which is interesting because he was supposed to have fallen and hit his head in the morning. So that's an interesting timeline. That's not adding up because friends came over at 11, 12, 1 o'clock, not the late afternoon. So something's not adding up there. Then Earl Gleam came in. He's a forensic examiner for the FBI, and he's a firearms and tool mark expert. Then he examined 2 vials, and this is when he asked, do I need gloves? And the judge said, yes, you do. So vial number 1, there were no puncture defects found. Indicates that it was not forcibly contacted by any other object to obtain the inside of it. Vial number 2, and this is where the phone call came in, phone call interruptus. He did a visual exam and found 1 defect in the center of the top rubber stopper. Cross came in and asked Gleam how to spell his last name, and the pronunciation didn't match. Like, what did that even matter? What was that even about? No defects were found in vial number 2. That is correct. Only asked to examine the rubber stopper and not the metal ring. That was correct. Can't tell who made the puncture mark. He said no. Any fingerprints? He said didn't examine for prints. Doesn't know how the contents were removed. Doesn't have the chain of custody notes because they were asking him about the chain of custody. And then when did the vials come in? He said February 9th, 2021. Which was 2 years later, almost to the day, because it was February 6th, 2019 is when Mike went into the hospital. He passed away February 11th, so almost 2 years to the day. And then they broke for lunch. So I'll get to a few comments and questions, and then I am going to take a lunch break. We are going to end the stream, and we're going to start a new one. So we're going to end this one soon, but let's get to your comments here. Brett, what do you got for us? I am guessing 1 shot when he went down, a 2nd shot that afternoon when he wasn't doing as badly as she hoped. Nice. They were asking about a hypothetical. Yep. There you go. Thank you for that. Rachel B. Okay, so it seems the 1 vial was punctured, but the other wasn't. That is correct. Thank you, Dream Landry and Sneaky. Hey, Sneaky. Good to see you. Where's my sneaks? There's my sneaky side. I like your recaps, Chris. You two are buttheads, but we get to talk to you more. I know it's a pain. I know. I'm actually okay with this. But thank you for joining us, Sneaky. Julie, cats love using plants for potty boxes. Mine did, yep. Yep, they do. Therapist, squirt bottle time. You guys are funny. Okay. Brett, it would not be ethical to test that much insulin on a human. Yes, I agree. Widespread panic. You need to install a cat flap in one of your windows. I know. We think about that. Trust me, we thought about that. Jenny says, what would happen if she poured it down his throat while he was out? Would he be able to swallow it? Can you swallow it while you're passed out? There's the Sneaky. Hi, friends. Keeping warm this morning? Barely. Yes. How are the ferals enjoying the freeze? Tomorrow, we're going to get rain, freeze tonight, and then tomorrow's going to be nasty. Julie says, I'm keeping an eye on the sneaky one behind you. Yeah, he's off to the next adventure. I don't know where he is. Hi, Sneaky. So good to see you. Rachel B. says. Jenny says, okay, this is weird, but I wonder if she gave him the shot in a private area vein, so it wouldn't be seen once he was unconscious. Possibly. Oh, Rachel, wondering the same thing. Interesting. And Rachel says, I wonder if it would have the same metabolic effect if he swallowed. Ken says, I'm going to bring this up, but I'm not actually saying anything. He's going to bring this up, but I'm not actually saying anything. What? Please explain yourself, sir. Ken says, was also wondering about that. Wow, I didn't even think about that. Good one, guys. Didn't even think about that. And Julie, yep, now he's gone. Pew, he's on to his next adventure. Baca of 3. One defense admonished by judge. Oh, okay, you're keeping track. Thank you. One defense admonished by judge. Let the witness finish her statement. Yep, defense. 1 sustained objection. Prosecution 3 sustained objections. Thank you, Baca, for doing that. Rachel B. with her microwaved dino nuggets says, I think she took his vitals and then injected him after. Possibly. Rachel B. also says, why else is she reporting the vitals to anyone? Yeah, like who cares? Right? I'll do a quick weather check in here. Dream of Landry, we have 4 inches of snow. Oof, should get a total of 7 inches today. I can't be in Louisiana anymore. That's just insane. Thank you, Baca. Thank you. Rachel, just microwave pizza. Oh, Rachel. Yeah, therapist, who you know, microwaved dino nuggets. There's a whole story with that. Rachel B., I was bragging about my culinary skills. Julia, it was 40 when I went to get labs done, and now it is 47. Ooh, big warm-up. Big warm-up. Yeah, we're not, tomorrow we're supposed to, it's a 47 right now for us, but tomorrow it's not, it's supposed to be 44. Low of 32, that's why they're saying possible. Tallahassee's going to get snow. They're literally straight up saying Tallahassee, and then west is going to get snow. So it's literally going to snow in Florida tomorrow. Yes, therapist, we had a whole culinary discussion while we were waiting on a break from the court, and Rachel was regaling us with her culinary expertise. And it was quite extensive, I have to say, Rachel. You had quite an extensive culinary experience there. Jenny says, when my pops was in a coma-like state at home, passing hospice needed help with him. He wasn't able to swallow, so I rubbed his throat for her. Yeah, she said, you must work for a vet, which I did. Oh, that's nice. Brat says, she tells people her claims of his vitals. She texts photos around, but she prevents him from going to the hospital. Yeah, so very not normal. Yep, good one, Brat. Absolutely. Rachel B. I married my husband because he agreed to cook. Was that part of your vows? For richer, for poorer, for cooking, or for eating? Krista Limited Edition, Brat. That are my thoughts exactly. Those are my thoughts, yes. Therapist, I make a mean bowl of cereal. we were talking about that. We were talking about it. Yes, that's a solid deal. Dream of Landry. Rachel B., you could make a microwave cookbook. Rachel, he cooks, I clean, done deal. My sister and her husband do that, but they switch off. Sometimes whoever cooks, the other one cleans, right? So if she cooks, he cleans. If he cooks, she cleans. And they're both really good cooks, so. OnlyFan, there are microwave cookbooks already, for real. Oh, I'm sure there are. And YouTube channels, I'm sure that's a thing, I am sure. Jenny says, my hubby used to cook me amazing meals while we were dating. And what happened, Jenny? Is that changed? Is that no longer? Go eat. Yeah, I will. I'm gonna. So they're not coming back until like quarter. It's like almost an hour. They're not coming back. So, all right, guys. I am going to end this stream. Jenny says we used to do that. Used to do it that way too. Yeah. All right. So, oh, here you go, Ken. I got my friend Microwave Cooking for One for Christmas this year. There you go. All right, I'm going to end this stream. Hopefully, fingers crossed, our internet connection will be better for an afternoon stream. because it's still pretty crappy. And what happens is that you guys get kicked off. We get kicked off too, but you come back in. Sometimes, if you don't have a Premium Plus or whatever it is, I think you just get booted to some other stream. I think, I'm not even sure. So, oh yeah, I love me an air fryer too. Yeah, I agree. OnlyFan, wait, yep. Microwave cooking, yep, I agree. Making chili today. I'm going to do that in a couple weeks. All right, Shirley Roth. I'm going to go eat. I'm off to the grocery. Have my earplugs. All right, we're going to end this stream, guys. So I'm going to end it. I'm going to kill it, end it. I'm going to add, Aaron added a redirect. So if you guys want to continue chatting, it's going to be afternoon. So this basically is morning, and then we'll pick up in afternoon. And I'll be back in like a half hour. So say 1 o'clock Eastern, 40 minutes or so. All right, so love you guys. Thank you to our mods. Thank you to our newest mod, Hellcat and Widespread Panic. Thank you, Therapist Julie and Rachel B, Florida PI Sam, OnlyFan, Brat. You guys are all the best, and thank you, Erin, for all that she does on the back end. Always does amazing stuff. So redirect will be on. Hopefully the internet will be a little bit better, and I will see you guys in about half hour or so. Okay, bye. Thank you.